What's up, y'all? I am Miss Megan Liana, and welcome back to Be Fck'n For Real, the home of unfiltered takes and unapologetic truths. We have a special Monday stream because had some technical difficulties last night, but that ain't gonna stop nothing, right? It might have stopped something for the moment, but if it's one thing we're gonna do is come right back and get right into it. So picking up from where we left off yesterday, okay? So we got to get into these Bible beefs, all right? So NLE Choppa and Jonathan Majors had a little spat regarding Bible interpretation, right? So let me get into that video of what caused it all.
In Christianity, it's a thing where people praise the Son more than they praise the Father. And that's what I don't like.
Okay.
Because if we are man made in a likeness, Jesus is our brother. You get what I'm saying? Why would I drop down and praise my brother instead of praising my father? And that goes back to honoring your parents.
I just gotta say something.
Good.
Have you read the Bible?
I read the Bible. I listen to the Bible. I receive from source straight.
I would say read it again.
Sir.
Let me ask you a question, Ray J.
It's the dismissiveness for me. The way NLE Choppa laughed that off, I agree. But first and foremost, let's be fucking for real. Neither of these men up here are like poster children for God's word, okay? They may be poster children of God's grace and God's forgiveness because they both have had issues and allegations of domestic violence. And through God's love, they have been able to overcome their reputations and rebrand. Now, despite that, because again, I'm not God, so who am I to judge, nor am I a Bible thumper. But I will now, I'm the type of person where I read my Bible. I as well love my Bible. Okay. However, if I went to some churches, they would call me a heretic or burn me at the stake. But I will there is a quote in the Bible that says, I and my father are one, but my father is greater than I. And I think sometimes I get what NLE Choppa was trying to say, because a lot of times in religion and Christianity, you get they're so caught up in praising Jesus that they forget about God. So I get where NLE was coming from. Now, could he have said it better? Who cares? That's his interpretation, and that was what he felt at the time. And I think that even when you look at who's sitting at this table, it's Kirk Franklin's podcast, and he had NLE Choppa, Jonathan Majors, Kevin Fredericks, also known as Kev on Stage, and Ray J, of all people. So it's already an eclectic mix of men. And so I think the problem with, Christianity and the Bible is sometimes Christians get so caught up in the colonizer's version of Christianity. And this is a version of Christianity, like the Bible that we have now, number one, has been interpreted and rewritten so many times in so many different languages that this final body of work, this is not, the original word, right? And this is not the original interpretation. And if we're going to take it further, every time you go to church on Sunday, you are listening to that pastor's interpretation of the word. But everybody is clearly entitled to their own interpretation of it. And the fact that Jonathan Majors felt the need to chastise him in that moment. It's like, who are you to say how his relationship with God and his interpretation of the Bible is incorrect? But another thing, and when I say like this is like the colonizers' Christianity, like this version of the Bible and Christianity has been used to enslave people. Christianity was used to enslave our ancestors. Christianity was used to enslave and colonize the Native American and indigenous. And every country that Spain and Europe sent people to, when they were colonized, they sent missionaries. Why? Because in order to capture this land and capture these people, you had to capture their culture and take away their religion. And, there was this video that came out today, and I think it's Mario Winans. And this video is exactly the problem with the Black church today. Let's look at this.
And receive respected church of sowing this of $1,000 plus $235 and receiving the blessings to come to all that participated.
Now that's only $1,200.
Yes.
Y'all not listening to what I'm saying.
Who you talking
If you
to?
have 1,000 plus 1,000,
Okay. Well, I'm gonna work on the other 800.
well, that ain't what I asked you to do.
Respected church.
And see, you see how he was talking to her? And that's the problem. That's another problem with the Black church, is that it's, for one, it's all about the money, all about sowing the seeds for the blessing. Then, mind you, people, there is a government shutdown. SNAP benefits could be canceled as of November 1st. And you got the nerve. I remember the church I used to go to, which I genuinely I love that church. A lot of times they say, sow what you can, if you can. Nah, he gonna chastise her and say, I said 2,000. And then she said, and Tia Quisha, shout out Tia Quisha, she said, I'm so embarrassed for that lady. Exactly. How dare you chastise her for at least giving 1,200 in this economy? And then I would have wanted my $1,200 back, because who is you talking to? But again, that's my problem with the church, is that people are so focused on being right about Bible scripture, and the pastors are so focused on sowing the seed of tithing, that it takes away from people that just want to have a relationship with God. Sometimes people just want to have a relationship with God on their own, which is fine. And also, you should be able to share your opinion and interpretation of the Bible and not be like chastised and shut down like that. And excuse me, again, it's the Bible thumping, because ain't nobody right. Ain't nobody right. Because no one knows the original context that the Bible was written in. And again, they're at Mr. Winans' church, and whatever his interpretation of the Bible is literally just saying, give me $2,000 and you'll get a blessing. And that's my problem with Bible thumping, and when I say the colonizers' Christianity, because baby, this was not what our ancestors believed in. And even, you see people on TikTok talking about like your ancestors are demonic, but yet every week, the first Sunday, once a month, you gotta, drink the blood of Christ. It's very picky, choosy about what's acceptable and what's not acceptable when it comes to Christianity. And it's all based on following somebody's interpretation or judgment. And so I give it to Jonathan Majors for actually no, I'm sorry, I give it to NLE Choppa for having the guts to at least, speak his own spiritual truth, because NLE Choppa is very spiritual. And once upon a time, Jonathan Majors was very, very spiritual. Like, he was on that same wave as NLE Choppa when he had all those brand deals. It's when he lost all those brand deals for that domestic violence case, and he had to really dig deep into the Black community, and the Black community and church and spirituality don't mix. And so that is another reason why that wasn't really a safe space for NLE Choppa to speak on something like that. Because like he said in his quote, he said, I get messages from source directly. And a lot of people don't want to, they like to say that if you connect to God within yourself, then you can't connect to God. You got to go to a preacher for that. A lot of people like to say that you're not able to, or for you to say that you're a heretic or something like that. And we need to have more safe spaces and more conversations about different interpretations of our relationship with God. And the sooner that we let go as a people of the slave masters version of Christianity that was shoved down our ancestors' throats, the better we will be. Now, another person that I think probably could have did a little better in their beliefs is Rockmond Dunbar. Did I get his name right? Yes, I did. Wait, I think I did. So Rockmond Dunbar is an actor. Now, basically, he was on the show 911. And when he was on that show, so this is during COVID, right? And during the COVID time, y'all remember when at the time you had to go back to work and you couldn't go back to work, especially if there were a certain amount of coworkers, without getting that vaccine. And it's so funny because sometimes I randomly find my COVID-19 vaccine card and I'm like, damn, I really did that to make sure I could go in restaurants and go into social spaces. But during that time in shutdown, please believe I was okay with it because I wanted to eat out and stuff again. But Rockmond did not get his COVID-19 vaccination. And because he did not get that vaccination, he lost his job with 911. And so he chose to sue Disney because of that. Now, according to him, he says that he was fired due to his religious convictions, and he believes in the tenets of the Congregation of Universal Wisdom. And for them, that is no vaccines and no medical intervention whatsoever. Now, I'm going to read a direct quote from his testimony because I believe his testimony is why he lost that case. So what he said was, man created the COVID-19 vaccine to separate you from God. This is a spiritual war. This is a war of evil against good. And I stood on the side of good. I stood on the side of God. I stood on the shoulders of God. And yes, he lost his case. 8 jurors said, we don't believe you. And I think it was one, that quote in his testimony, but two, I think part of the issue is that Disney lawyers have pointed out he takes synthetic testosterone. In addition to taking synthetic testosterone, he also takes 37 other medications. So for you to say, I'm not going to get the COVID-19 vax because, that's not of God, but yet you choose to take testosterone. And the leader of his religion says taking testosterone, synthetic testosterone, is sacrilegious. So it's like you can't pick and choose when you want to be religious and when you want to stand by your convictions. And if you do choose, to stand by your convictions when it's convenient versus when it's not, you can't really sue for that and think that people are going to believe you or take you seriously. And when he was called out by Disney lawyers about, his medicinal use, his medical use, all he could say was, "I'm not a perfect man." Baby, this is not about perfection. This is about standing on your convictions. And to me, that's like, somebody that's Muslim or of the Nation of Islam, and they talking about they only eat bacon on Sundays and ham on Thanksgiving. It's like you're not going to take them seriously. And this is that same thing. And so the sad part is that he was making $100,000 per episode, and not even the episodes that he just starred in. He was making money for episodes he didn't appear in, and now he can't find work. He says he's struggling, and he lost this case. So that's one of those things where I feel like when you're a person, and look at Drake too, it's like when you go against the hand that pays you and that is feeding you in this industry, you can't expect for things to still work in your favor. Like, you're going to get blacklisted. And even when it comes to going against these big companies, it's like sometimes I feel like you can take the loss and pivot without the fight, because sometimes the fight is unnecessary. And I believe in picking and choosing your battles. I do think the one thing that could work in his favor is our RFK, the guy that's head of, our health shit. He's very anti-vax. And because the person that leads the country when it comes to health services is anti-vax, I feel that Rockmond could possibly be able to take this case further. And I say that because this is a very quid pro quo regime, and this regime also creates a safe space for the quirks, and I'm gonna just leave it like that. But I do think that if Rockmond had actually practiced what he preached, he would have won his case. However, this is what happens when you do not stand on your convictions. And another person that does not stand on their convictions is this motherfucker right here, Snoop Dogg. Now, here's the thing, right? I did a video in January called "What Makes a Sellout?" And I really think y'all should go back and watch it, because I talked about how Snoop Dogg is a sellout. And the thing is, when it comes to Snoop, he's not a sellout of his people. He's a sellout of his convictions. Now I'm going to tell y'all what had happened. Okay. So if you remember, about, I want to say maybe a month ago, Snoop Dogg did a podcast interview, and he had this to say about seeing the latest movie, Toy Story.
Took my grandson to see what was the movie with Buzz Light?
Toy Story?
Not that one, but
the new Buzz. The Lightyear. I think it's called Lightyear.
Yeah, with Keke Palmer's in that movie.
Okay.
She plays like the daughter. So we watching it, and the lady, which is Keke's mama, they move on into the space years. They move down the line. They're like, man, she had a baby with a woman. Well, my grandson in the middle of the movie like, Papa Snoop, how she have a baby with a woman? She a woman. Oh, shit. I didn't come in for this shit. I just came to watch the goddamn movie. Hey, man, watch the movie.
Now, That's what he had to say a couple months ago. And here is his most recent announcement with his partnership with GLAAD.
Love is Love is a record that my kids program, Doggyland, presented me. Where it's the song where it's teaching love is love. It's teaching parenthood. It's teaching the situations that kids and the world is going through right now in a beautiful way through song, dance, melody, and just trying to get more understanding, clarity on how we live and the way we live. And I felt like this music is a beautiful, bridge to bringing understanding. This is a program that we've been doing for years where we involve kids, and these are things that kids have questions about. So now hopefully we can help answer these questions and, help them to live a happy life and understand that love is love.
Amen.
Amen. How admirable. Now let's listen to this new Love is Love song.
Wow, wow, wow.
It's catchy, I'll say that.
Different families make us all great. There's no debate. That's how we relate. Love is patient. Love is grace. Love is safe. A real magical place. I'm proud to love. I'm proud of you. I love my parents. They love you too.
I can only imagine him writing that shit. Okay, so now to recap, and I purposely left who he partnered with in that screenshot, and you can in the recording of the announcement, because he partnered with GLAAD, and GLAAD is an LGBTQ nonprofit that fights for gay rights. Now, I want to be very clear. My issue with Snoop Dogg is not that he created an LGBTQ-friendly song. My issue is that he does not stand for anything he fucking speaks about. And this is as clear as day. You literally go on a podcast to talk about how you don't know how to explain to your kids about LGBTQ. You don't want your grandkids are going to see that. And then clearly when you get the call that what you said was some bullshit from your handlers or whoever is signing, whoever manages the brand, when they made it clear that what you said was unacceptable and you had to fix it, you went and fucking put it in your cartoon? Like that's my issue. It's the hypocrisy in what he stands for. My issue in January was that in Trump's first inauguration, Snoop made a video talking about calling people coons and jigaboos if they went to Trump to perform at Trump's inauguration. And then what happens this year? He performs at Trump's crypto ball and doesn't address it. And the thing is that I could care less what you stand for. Just pick a side and stand in it. Once you compromise what you stand for, you are a sellout. And as of 2024, Snoop Dogg's net worth is $160 million. And when you look at that net worth, his bag is too big for his own personal morals. And that's what makes him a sellout, is that you will feel so strongly about something on a personal level, and then you have the audacity to speak out on it. But as soon as it deals with the check, your ass is literally doing not a complete turnaround, because then you would have to completely turn back and go full circle to where you started. No, you do a complete 180 and turn your back onto what you said and your actions. You have to literally do something that completely contradicts what you said. A person is only as strong as their word, but a man, all you have is your word. And all you have is your morals and your values. And when you show that you are shaky as fuck in your morals and your values, you're a fucking sellout because you sold out yourself. It has nothing to do with the people. It has nothing to do with Black people, him as a role model, anything. Snoop Dogg is a prime example of when you reach a certain status, you do not own your opinion. Your opinion is owned because you are owned. And Snoop Dogg's music, like I can't remember and I'm not even saying this to be fucked up. Does he get money touring? Hell yeah. Is he a brand? Very much so. Music wise, I can't remember the last hit Snoop Dogg had. I don't remember. If anybody watching, you could comment the last hit. Like, I don't know. And I'm not even saying that to be facetious. I don't remember the last time he had a hit. So the brand and the brand deals is what's keeping him at 160 million or more. That's what enables him to be able to host the Olympics, the Olympic events and shit like that. So I get that part. However, you don't have, if you stand for nothing, you don't have to fake stand for something. And I think that's what drives me crazy the most about Snoop Dogg is that he sells out on the issues he pretends to care about. And that's my issue with Snoop Dogg. He could completely not have an opinion on anything. Look at Jay-Z. Jay-Z is a billionaire. He knows he can have his social justice and police reform nonprofit and fundraiser, but make no mistake, at that nonprofit fundraiser he had about a month ago, Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump were sitting at the table right across from him. So, but my only thing is that at least with Jay-Z, he's not all, you never hear Jay-Z talk unless if it's a press release. And I think that Snoop Dogg needs to get to that point where you just don't speak on shit. And again, I will never forget when he called Gayle King a funky dog bitch. And even then, he was on Jada Pinkett's Red Table Talk apologizing and getting chastised. Snoop Dogg doesn't do it for Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg doesn't do it for his people. Snoop Dogg doesn't do it for his lineage. He does it for the fucking bag. And at some point, I need him to be fucking for real about keeping his opinion to himself. Because if you cannot stand on what you say you stand on, you're a fucking sellout. And that's all I have to say about that guy. Moving right along. If you did not know, the R in Republican is for racist. Okay, so there was a text leak last week. And if there's anything I can say, these racist Republicans have no issue standing on their business. And that's, you can hate these motherfuckers all you want, but for the most part, they stand on their ignorance, they stand on their racism, and the racist Republican Party has made it a safe space for them. Now, the pictures that I have up are, just a fraction of some of the text messages that were released. But basically, Politico received over 7 months of group chat messages that were from the young Republican leaders from New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont. Now, while the group is called the Young Republican Leaders, they're not that young. Like, they're in their 30s. A lot of them were in their 30s. Some were almost 40. So they're not that young. But a lot of the, things that they were saying was a lot of N-words, a lot of Nazi and Hitler praise, which is not surprising. And no matter what, the Republicans do to denounce the racist rhetoric, the problem is that the Republican Party represents racism. And the racism exists because the Republicans have made it a safe space for racists, for fascists, for Nazis, and for extreme Christian nationalists that choose to use the Bible to justify it all. Like just today, and I thought about sharing the video, but I decided not to because I don't want to platform that type of shit. But there was a podcaster that made a video, and his point was that Christians need to start making sure that they use the Bible to argue that slavery should be legal. And he went viral for that. Another Republican leader who is in Donald Trump's cabinet, like he's nominated for some fucking position. And this guy just his text message, Politico just released his text messages. And one of the things he said was that Martin Luther King Jr. was the George Floyd of the 1960s. And excuse me, these people all say that. And what was also very prominent in their messaging and in these messages is that their goal is to kiss up to Trump to be able to be a part of his cabinet and to get a role in the Republican Party in the future, because the Republican Party is really Donald Trump's party. And this is why I say the Republican Party needs to have a split. And I've said the same thing about the Democratic Party too. But right now, the Republican Party is like all lumped into one, and it's Trump loyalists, a lot of racists, and then like the regular Republicans that, existed before all this shit and don't fit into a Trump loyalist or a racist, but they still have Republican and conservative values. But they're all lumped into one. And the problem, again, is that Donald Trump has the Republican Party by their balls. And because he has the Republican Party by their balls, you can only move up or become forward facing in the Republican Party if you are a Trumper. And look at their rhetoric. Like, I can't continue to, like, if I can't give examples of the racist shit that they say, because they do it. Like, if you don't see the racist things that Trump has done or that his regime has done to create this safe space for racists, then it's like you're probably part of the problem and you probably follow them on some level. But I digress. But again, the major standout in a lot of these text messages is that these guys really, really want and need Donald Trump's approval. And the fact that these are Republican leaders that are looking to, be the leaders of the Republican Party, and this is what they think, Republicans have a problem. And that problem is they're racist as shit. And if they're not racist, they've created too much of a safe space for racists. And until Republicans work on that and work on, rebranding to not be the party for racism and fascism and actually really face that shit head on, they're still going to continue to have a problem. And these kind of messages are going to continuously be leaked. But, I really, really do hope that there's a split between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party and new parties are formed, because and let's just use the Republican Party, for example, right? the people that do not feel that they fit into this current Republican Party, what happens is either they tend to not vote or they may vote independent. Sometimes they'll convert to voting Democrat, but it's happened more lately, but not always if they don't support that candidate. And so you have this space of people that will waste their vote, and they waste it by voting third party or not voting. And again, if there were third and fourth parties that actually worked, that people could connect to, I think that we would see a more balanced democracy and a more balanced system in Congress. But because we have these two-party systems and they're both so fucking extreme, and Republicans are so extreme racist, again, until they rebrand their racism, the R in Republican is always going to stand for racist. And that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Now, on Saturday, there was another No Kings protest. And I said it the last time. I personally don't understand the point of the No Kings protest, right? So, and like I did last No Kings protest, I'm gonna break down the math again, because this time there were 7 million people that showed up to protest our current regime. If 2.3 million of them would have voted with the 92% of Black women that voted for Kamala Harris, we would not have this regime now, and people could have did something else on last Saturday. If Republicans in the House and the Senate were not bending to this guy's every demand, we would not be facing a government shutdown right now. And we would not have the impression of there being a king. If the Supreme Court was not bought and corrupt, again, we would have not needed a No Kings protest, because the Supreme Court would have been doing their due diligence to stop what is happening with this regime that he is doing and that Congress is pushing through. There are no checks and balances in this system. And what I don't understand is when it comes to the No Kings protest, I don't know what the demands are. And I think it is a very, very fair assessment that these motherfuckers do not care at all. Prime example, this was Donald Trump's response right after, on the day of the protest, or the next day. He literally posted an AI video of him in a fighter jet shitting on American citizens and protesters. That was his first response. And he was interviewed on Air Force One about the No Kings protest, and this is what he had to say.
What is your response to the protest?
Who are you with?
I'm with the AP.
With AP?
What's your response to the protest over the weekend, the No Kings protest?
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country. And I looked at all the brand new signs paid for, I guess it was paid for by Soros and other radical left lunatics.
Always Soros.
It looks like it was. We're checking it out. The demonstrations were very small, very ineffective, and the people were whacked out. When you look at those people, those are not representative of the people of our country.
Mr. President, besides San Francisco...
Very ineffective.
I'm not a king. I work my ass off to make our country great. That's all it is. I'm not a king at all.
What is your response to the...
While he says he's not a king, right? This is another... This guy loves AI. That's the problem with old people. They love AI too much. And he is one of them. While he's saying he's not a king, this is another video he posted on Truth Social. Imagine that. Look at his face. And he posted that. This dude does not care. He doesn't care. And he's going to do everything he can to stay in power. But again, he doesn't look at himself as a king or understand the king reference because he doesn't see himself as a bully. And two, everybody does what the fuck he tells them to do. And that's the problem, is that he doesn't have to care. Because while we're saying, oh, no kings, the issue isn't Trump. The issue is the systems that are enabling Trump. Tia, my sentiments exactly. Oh, brother, because what is this dude thinking? But if they don't care when they see 7 million people protesting, that's not something where they feel like, oh my God, look at the angry Americans. No, they feed off the angry Americans. They feed off the energy, they feed off the anger. And just like he said, oh, those are Soros bought people and signs. They have their own conspiracy theories for who's out protesting. So while people are going out and protesting, again, my issue with these protests is there's no structure of the goals, the end goal, meaning, okay, you all are out there protesting. What are the demands? And not only what are the demands, what is the plan of action to have those demands met? Because again, we don't have a king. We have an enabling Congress and a corrupt Supreme Court. Without those two being compliant in his bullshit, none of this would be going on right now. If we did not have a corrupt Congress that would rather shut down, we have a Congress of Republicans that would rather shut down to ensure that they are doing what he says and what he wants them to do versus actually working for their constituents. That's the goddamn problem. And misinformed voters. Yes, Tia, that's another thing. Misinformed voters. People would rather consume propaganda, not do their research, vote for Trump. Because let make no mistake, out of them 7 million people, I know a good portion of them voted for Trump, and I know a good portion of them did not vote at all because they were misinformed about Gaza, Palestine, misinformed about Kamala Harris, misinformed about what he was really going to do with ICE, or misinformed about Project 2025. And also, I think beyond misinformed, I think that people really, there's a lack of critical thinking skills that makes it easier for people to be misinformed. And the fact that people have no idea how politics and how government works. Now, I will say the fact that all of this is going on, even though it sucks for the country, I'm glad people are going to see like how government functions, how Congress is supposed to function, how the Supreme Court is supposed to function. Because when everything goes wrong, they're going to remember, oh, when that happened, this is what they voted on, or this is what the Republican Congress said, or the House or the Senate. Like it's like people are getting a real-time lesson about all the misinformation they've received over the years. And so it sucks that a lot of us, especially the 92%, have to basically, suffer for the failed group test that the country had to take. However, here we are. But you're not catching me at any protest, because I swear the only reason why a lot of these protests are going as good as they are is because there are not a lot of Black people there leading it. We've seen what happens when Black people exercise their right to protest. You see a lot more cops, and they're a lot more aggressive. So I feel like the people who are protesting, more power to you. I would just love to hear a little more structure and a little more planning as to what happens after these protests are done. Because again, this administration does not give a fuck. They don't. They are not tripping. So yeah, I genuinely don't want to see a third No Kings protest. I don't. Now, if they do want to do a No Kings protest, I would love to actually see them go to the fucking Capitol. I would love to see I would love to see millions of people show up at the Capitol like the Trumpers did on January 6th. And I'm not even saying take over the Capitol. I'm just saying I would love to see the same people that are protesting in these No Kings protests. I would love to see them organize, fly their ass up to DC like all those January 6ers did, and protest there. To me, that's some shit I want to see. Then I'll take y'all protest serious. Other than that, I said it once, I say it again. All this shit is performative. You should have voted right. Out of those 7 million people, we only needed 2.2 million to change what had happened. So, and on to our last story. Okay, so I kept seeing information about this case in the Supreme Court, right? And excuse me. So the current case in the Supreme Court, and it's said to potentially reshape the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And so me and my little curious self, I was like, how? Because it wasn't adding up to me. And I know if I was wondering how that could completely change the scope of the Voting Rights Act, I'm pretty sure some of y'all were too. So y'all know me, I had to do a little research on it. Okay. So the case is this is a court case on the Louisiana congressional map. Okay. Now, it is against white Louisiana voters, and it's versus the state of Louisiana, its legislative map makers, and Black voters. So this case started in 2021. And what happened is Black voters sued in federal court that the way Black communities were divided in Louisiana congressional maps violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And that section is what allows minority voters to challenge maps that do not have that have a racially discriminatory effect on the voters, right? So basically, when it came to this Louisiana congressional map, there are 5 districts. I think it was 5. And there was a congressional map that only had one section of the map that represented Black voters. However, when you look at the population of Louisiana, Black voters actually would have needed 2 districts in Louisiana for it to be fair representation for the race makeup, the race demographic in Louisiana. Now, they won an injunction that blocked the previous map that they were going against, right? And in 2024, the state adopted a map that added a second majority Black voter district. Now, the challengers are arguing that that new map, excuse me, the challengers are arguing that the new map that was accepted that added that second Black congressional district is it's unconstitutional and it's racial gerrymandering. Now, this this sounds a lot like the affirmative action case. This also sounds a lot like other cases that have been brought to the Supreme Court where equality, where intentional equality is being made illegal. Now, Section 2 has been used, like I said, to ensure that racial population is represented fairly in congressional mapping. So if the court rules that this map is a violation of the 14th and 15th Amendment, the ability to use Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act could be eliminated. Now, another thing that happened is in 2023, the Supreme Court upheld the use of Section 2 in Alabama, and it was the case Allen versus Mulligan, where they ordered a second Black congressional district be created because in Alabama, Black voters were not equally represented. But this Louisiana decision may reverse that 2023 decision that allowed Alabama to use Section 2. So just last month, it was last month or 2 months ago, I don't know, time goes by so fast, I can't keep up. But remember the whole fiasco in Texas where it was a Texas redistricting, and the Democrats flew out of the state to try to stop the congressional map from going into effect because Donald Trump had Texas representatives go into a special session to redistrict the Texas congressional map to create 5 new Republican seats, and it also wiped out Black and Hispanic congressional districts. So with what happened in Texas, if this case wipes out Section 2 to be used for fair mapping based off of racial population and representation, not only will Texas be able to get away with that, but lots of other states will be able to completely wipe out the districts of their minority voters. So it's not just Black voters. It's, when you think of cities like LA, for example, in LA, you have like Little Ethiopia, Koreatown, Chinatown. You have all these districts, right? And all those districts and areas have somebody that represents them. So when you reshape that district to wipe out and redraw how those people are represented, so that way a specific party, which would be Republican, white male Republican, that eliminates fair representation because then you can't vote in a representative for your district. And here's the thing, like, people forget our legislators are voted in to represent us. You can't tell now because a lot of them ain't doing shit, and Congress is out, and this is the most non-functioning Congress we ever had. But if this passes, this will remove the legal fight against racial representation. And this is why I say we do not have a king problem. We have a corrupted system that has given full authority to someone to enable the change of our political landscape for like decades to come. Now, mind you, this is the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It is only 2025. That is 60 years later. It doesn't take, and I think my biggest lesson that, like, one of the things I'm taking away from 2025 and this whole regime is that it takes one presidential administration to completely wipe out the progress of two generations. If this one thing changes from the Voting Rights Act, then not only is that going to change what's happening in Louisiana and Alabama, not only is that going to allow Texas to do their redistricting, but when you think of a lot of these rural states and Republican states, that is where you're going to see the biggest unfair shift in representation. So, keep looking out on this issue. The Supreme Court, they're just hearing the testimony and the arguments, not even testimony, the arguments on it right now. They came in for a special session to hear these arguments. But this case will not have a decision until next year. And that's more than enough time for the decisions to be bought. I'm sorry. We already know when it comes to Clarence Thomas. God, what's that other guy? There's an Scalia. Scalia, I think that's the other guy's name. Like, those are two for sure bought Supreme Court justices that have their stories have come out and their financials have all been reviewed and released, and like they've been bribed for the last 2 decades at least. But for this to kind of be argued now and decided on in October, who's to say what's going to happen between now and, I'm sorry, not October, between now and 2026? Like, it's only October. Every month feels like another year for some reason with this goddamn regime. Nothing feels normal anymore. And I think, I can't wait until politics just like slows down. Like, I remember when the only controversy, Lord be with us, Tia. Yes, every day I say God bless America, but not like as a statement, more as a prayer. And I pray that God blesses America, because I really, really miss when the only controversy of a president was he got a blowjob in the Oval Office. Or when Obama wore a tan suit or something like that. Like, or, even Bush, like, I feel like we didn't appreciate Bush. I feel like Trump and the Republicans now are so goddamn crazy. Like, was Bush a bad president? Yes. Was he as bad as this shit? No. Things were still a little bit of normal. And I hope and pray one day we get back to a sense of fucking normalcy in politics. And that sense of normalcy looks like not having a president that bullies his way with money and tariffs to control everything, including other country relationships. A sense of normalcy looks like not having a legislative branch and fucking Congress and representatives, that the Senate and the representatives that fight all the time and have petty wars, like petty war of words. The way these people argue and debate, sometimes I wonder, when did they stop caring about their constituents? You know, because I feel like at some point people got into Congress or got into politics because they gave a fuck. And at some point, I always want to know, like, when did you stop caring? Was it the check? Was it, and it's not the check they get for their job. Was it the backhanded deals? Is it the donors? Like, there's always a switch. And I hope that someday we get to a sense of normalcy. And I hope that all the damage that is happening in this current administration that is undoing 60, 70 years of work and progress in civil rights and representation and equality for all, I hope that whatever is undone is not as hard as a fix to balance when all this shit is over. Because it can't be like this forever. Praise God. Please, Jesus, don't make it be like this forever. And on that note, I am out. Thank you for pulling up on me on a Monday. I am Miss Megan Liana, and this is Be Fck'n For Real, your place of unfiltered takes and unapologetic truths. And I'm going to see y'all next Sunday for our Sunday Sound Off.